Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 1, Monster. The episode rated TVMA. So will this video be. Another episode I loved, and spoilers for everything live action, but no other version of The Walking Dead media leading up to and including when this first came out. And it is Pride Month. There's not an awful lot in this episode to do a Pride reading of, so instead I'm going to recommend a Pride, LGBTQIA plus video. In this case, Cat Black's Popular Lies about transgender people. And it's really great to be watching this show again. I think I'll start with a couple of general things and then move into the scene by scene, more or less chronological. So I forget if I mentioned this in one of my videos on season 1 of this show. I will say at this point right now I am not 100% sure. I'm not necessarily saying this is a bad thing. I'm just wondering, thinking out loud, maybe theorizing, if they are going to consistently be on this boat. It seems somewhat limited how there could be walkers, outside of maybe flashbacks, or if we temporarily see something from the perspective of someone else. I appreciate it's possible that, it sounds like there's some chance the other boat is going to catch up to them. Maybe that will lead to a walker situation, but I don't know. It's I do appreciate that one of the most interesting things in zombie media is, of course, the conflict between humans, survivors, and we do see some of the paranoia and power struggle in this episode, and once again the threat of the other boat, which also I appreciate. Technically, we don't know for sure if that is the one that attacked the other one. And that is a very cool place to be. By the end of this episode, I genuinely am not sure. Like, maybe Alicia made a huge mistake sharing any information with him at all. Because that's the thing. Like, she just said, oh, the plume of smoke is north of me. If he's got a fast boat, that might be all he needs to know. Even if she didn't say how far away from Catalina, because he may have staged the thing with, like, oh no, we're taking on water. She doesn't have any visual evidence of that. She just has his word for it, and she doesn't know who he is. So that is a very cool situation, and that is the kind of thing where, them being on a boat, it doesn't necessarily make things any better, and in some ways makes it worse, because, like, hypothetically, similar happens if, like, they are both in cars in the city. As long as they don't know exactly, like, the street, like, if they just know, oh yeah, I was south, north of this particular landmark, okay, that can mean a lot of different things, and it's easier to hide. If you get the car into a garage and they go into a building, if it's an area with a lot of buildings, it would take forever for the others to find them. But on the open sea, with so few boats, it's not that difficult, and we've just been told, this thing cannot go as fast as the other one. I think that might be about... I guess I'll do one more general thing. They are continuing to do a solid job on this thing of, like, the emotional engagement, and how, in general, honestly, I'll expand this to, the games as well. Every bit of Walking Dead media that I've, spent some time with, I've loved almost all of it, and there really is Okay, and that, yeah, I guess I should specify. I'm talking about the Telltale games. I've heard some negative things about at least some of the other Walking Dead games. Anyway, I don't know that I necessarily love what was it called, 400 Days, and I'm also a little bit mixed on the Michonne one. Not because she's not an awesome character, she is, but yeah, the main ones pretty much just got better and better. I appreciate some people don't like the New Frontier. I thought it had a lot to offer, but definitely Final Season was the best of all of the. Yeah. Anyway, something they all do. We're emotionally engaged, and we can kind of understand where nearly everyone is coming from, even when someone says or does something where we're like, "Oh, please don't do that. That's a terrible idea." And yeah, I think, in my opinion, so far, right, and as far as season premieres, we are 2 for 2. They're both excellent for this show, and yeah, every season premiere of a live action Walking Dead show I've watched so far has been excellent, and it is continuing to deliver something that we didn't get on the main show. This whole idea of a boat, like I'm genuinely not sure. Right, another thing that did occur to me, maybe every so often they will have to at least temporarily maybe trust someone else, maybe go ashore or something, and that's of course an area where they could encounter walkers. And if Strand is still on the boat and there's even one person who's not on the boat and he feels like, well, time to leave, I think there are very few that he would stay to make sure it got on the boat. So the yeah, and yeah, genuinely, I'm really excited to. It shouldn't be very long. Before I do the next episode, I'm very excited to see what next for this. Anyway, yeah, that brings us to the more or less scene by scene. So yeah, very tense as they make it onto the boat, and yeah, he is not leaving her body behind, so Travis has to bring it with. Maybe they could do a weekend at Bernie's. And, you know, if you haven't watched one or both of those movies in a while, honestly, it's been some time, but I feel I remember them well enough to say they are some of the worst movies I've ever watched in my fucking life. Jesus Christ. Like, even like the concept really should. It's that thing of like dead dove don't eat. I don't know what I was expecting, but still, like, I don't know. It was a slow weekend. I'm sorry. Anyway, yes, moving on. Yes, so the shit, did I watch both of them in one weekend? Was it the same fucking day? God damn. That didn't make things better. Anyway, they do all manage to get on the boat, and I appreciate that this episode was essentially just them adjusting to the new status quo of being on the boat. Not, it's not the most eventful as far as like plot, but there is some great character stuff. And yeah, this thing of like just trying to make this all work. It's also this group of people have not spent a huge amount of time all together, and they're also still trying to figure out. We've got that moment between Ophelia and yeah. Uh, let's see. I think that does bring us to the first of the. Let's see. I think is that maybe when they're yeah, there's the thing about, all he does is sit in the room and stare at her body. And that's the thing. Like, I really appreciate it. I felt like they did a really solid job in this episode of just, yeah, like, this is a really fucked up situation. Like, he intellectually understands that Travis did what he had to do, but he still watched his mother be shot. Yeah. By his father. So that is, yeah. And I think that might be when they, let's see. Yeah, there's the thing about, they see some other survivors nearby, and yeah, it is a very difficult situation. And Strand, I appreciate it, is not the only person. Travis also says we have to, we cannot let them on. And my God, Strand, I am still absolutely digging his character, and I love this actor as well. I believe there's at least one movie that I'm going to be watching in the not too distant future that he is apparently in. I'm keeping it vague because the fact that he's in the trailer doesn't mean that he's not a twist. That the fact that he appears in it at all can't possibly be a twist, because sometimes that happens in with trailers these days. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, he's just like, listen, if this boat stops, it's for people to leave, not to get on. So yeah, that's not only is he not going to let them on, but if they insist on stopping, I mean, you're free to go. There's a lot of water out there, water everywhere. Go for a swim. And let's see. And that's also something I think, long term could really be a problem if the group is not able to end up agreeing. And it, once again, like, I 100% understand both, like, this thing of, like, what if someone on there is sick? What if they've been bitten? If one person there has been bitten, and there's even one person who's like, no, we can't do, or they just don't say it, like, what would they react like if, in order to get on the Abigail, if they're told, okay, now, I mean, I guess show every inch of your body naked. Like, even if you say, oh, it'll just be, one person who sees you like that, that's still a lot to ask, especially, like, what if they haven't, what if they don't know enough of the details to understand that that's literally necessary? What if they just think, oh, these are just, a bunch of, fucking weirdos, and they, maybe accept it at first, but they bide their time and then take over the boat, like, which, once again, I would not blame them for, yeah, it's one of the things I love about apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic media is when it can kind of have us thinking, like, shit, what would I do in that situation? I like to think that I'm a good person, but would I, and Travis says we're no good to anyone if we can't protect our family. That is a, we can understand where he's coming from. It's not like he's saying, oh, they don't deserve to live. He's talking about, like, they're both parents. They have to protect their offspring. So, and let's see. I think, yeah, Travis tells Alicia, figure out what's going on with that radio. Might not have been the best choice, but again, we can understand. And it's also the kind of thing of, like, I mean, she's going to want something to do that makes her feel like she is, like, I kind of get the sense that she would not be okay with just sitting and not really doing anything in this circumstance. She needs to take her mind off who she's lost, as we saw in season 1. So yeah, understandably, she was reluctant to accept how bad things were getting. And I think that is when, yeah, so the fishing, and yeah, he's like, so you know how to fish? Yeah, my dad taught me. Big Bear. I didn't know you could fish for big bears. I don't think you're going to catch any out here. That's all I'm going to say. And yeah, they end up catching an eel. which genuinely, like, it has been decades since I last had it, but I mean, you could do significantly worse. There's things in the water that you would not want to eat significantly more than an eel, so that is nicely done. And yeah, once again, it's this thing of like trying to make yourself useful and trying to protect your family and such. He remains another character that I absolutely love. I swear it's not just like with him, at least partially it's because I already really like this actor, but yeah, the other one I really don't know that I've watched that much. Was he the voice of Norman Osborn in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, maybe? Other than that, I don't offhand recall. My wrist are too fucking short to check right now. But I don't offhand recall seeing him in other stuff. Anyway, let's see. I think that might be when Ophelia and yeah, they have the little moment, and it's such a great because like yeah, he says, "Oh, can I take a look at that?" And like obviously, like we appreciate he's trying to help, but it is also this thing of like it's a little bit awkward of a moment. And I do think he makes a strong recovery in proving that he's a good person and not just like trying to you know see as much of her as he can, which like I'm aware a number of young women are you know very on guard when it comes to young men, understandably so. That is not something that just you know happens in paranoid ideas. That is there's a lot of young men who have taken advantage, sometimes gone as far as raping. So but he tells her, listen, I don't have to be the one looking at it. I'm just saying here's some advice, and I like that vodka, lots of vodka was part of the advice, because the stuff he says is something she can go and do herself. And yeah, I think that does bring us to the first time that so yeah, Alicia is you know going between radio stations, and I really appreciated the like both the detail and the weight. It clearly like it does clearly bother her to switch away from because there's at least one station where it's just help us. They did say help us, not never. And yeah, that's not what she's looking for. That's not what she's been told to be looking for. So that's and yeah, ultimately, Jack, who like there's definitely some charisma there, playing the song and saying, well, stuff the song's gonna be stuck in your head now. You're welcome. Shy, I'll say the point in that, but you do you, like it's yeah, of course, like this kind of attitude, personality is gonna, you know, there's a certain appeal to it, but at the same time, we also know, like yeah, this episode was from 2016. Like we know sometimes, you know, some people who will come across as appealing in one way or another have, you know, ill intent and end up doing significant harm. I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I've never seen any appeal to him. And you know what? Honestly, maybe he doesn't even have ill intent. Maybe he's just too ignorant to understand what he's doing and too reluctant to, face reality. I wouldn't completely rule that out. Anyway, I think that does. Yeah. So the ah all these names. I'll try to remember them over the course of the next episodes. Madison, maybe. Mom. Is yeah, she hears some voices, and yeah, we're like is Strand communicating with someone behind the backs of the rest of them? And he just says, just talking to the ghosts of the dead. I don't know if that's better. And yeah, this thing of like, discussing, are we sure we can trust Strand? Like, how much do we know about him? I mean, as far as I've heard, he hasn't blown up a boat that contained two of his own cousins, but still. And yeah, that thing about like, why are we going there exactly? Is he, because that, like, what if he has been in contact with someone? What do they say? San Diego, I think. What if he's been in contact with someone in San Diego that if he hands over the survivors, that means that he gets safe passage. Maybe, maybe they have some kind of place there that can, because, it's pointed out he wasn't intending to stay in that house even before the walkers. So what exactly is the, and also appreciate the detail that no one slept, and this conversation between Madison and Alicia of, I mean, essentially we have, this young woman who really wants to contribute with something. Everybody contributes or at least doesn't compromise on this boat. And a parent who's like, growing up too fast, And at the same time, she can also, like, it's one of those things, I'm not a parent myself. You're welcome. But the, listen, I don't want anybody to, like, lie awake at night, terrified of that prospect. Never gonna happen, trust me. But let's see. Yeah, I've heard parents talk about, like, once you're witnessing one of your offspring, engaging in something that you feel is them growing up too fast, I mean, you kind of have to make the choice of, is it, do you let them or do you fight back? Because it can also lead to, it could make things worse if you fight back, but it might also, it's very context dependent. Like a lot of things in real life, really. I mean, getting some water in your hair, good, important. But if there's even one hair in your water, very different situation. But I think that brings us to the, yeah, and it is a very compelling conflict here. Obviously, the main show that has, by the point I reached, also had some, what's the word, some leaders that turned out not to be quite so good. But yeah, like this, yeah, honestly, I think this is the, I don't know, it feels distinct enough. Let's go with that. I suppose an argument could be made that we didn't know from right away about the governor, Um, and yeah, like in both cases, there's some isolation going on, but here it's also like, I mean, if they at some point find out they cannot go with Strand, what are they gonna do? Linku, swim, and I think, does that pretty much bring us to the, I feel like there's one more thing that I really wanted to make sure to say. But what was it? Yeah, I also just really appreciated the way that it felt completely natural, the way that Alicia gradually trusts Jack more and more. And yeah, like at the start, I got the sense that she's really not gonna tell him anything, that would help him find them. But then by the end, and right before they catch the eel, they're also there's the exchange, So what are we fishing for? Depends. Adult diapers? I mean, I think there's chances of better eating in the sea. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could say I've never tried. I'm not an expert on diapers. Um, is there a chance they could radio Matt Walsh? Now, to be clear, I'm not saying Matt Walsh, wears diapers or needs to. And frankly, I try not to shame those who do. I don't think we should be shaming people for something they just can't help. But it is a well-documented fact that he, on at least one occasion, let's see, I want to say he was the judge of a wrestling match between two adults wearing diapers and at least one Nazi tattoo. And I don't know, I guess I think someone like him who is so obsessed with, look at how weird trans people are, I guess I just don't think we should forget that he's so fucking weird. Like, listen, trans people in and of themselves are not hurting anyone. Like, obviously, they're capable of not being the best people, but I have heard of significantly lower percentage of trans people and LGBTQIA plus individuals in general that are just, the fucking worst compared to like cishet Christian conservative white men who are in politics and or media. It's funny how these days sometimes there's not that much of a distinction and some kind of try to do both at the same time and end up obviously really failing to do a good job at the political office. Anyway, cabinet position, whatever. I think that does bring us to the yeah, one of the things that also helps build trust is, of course, that Jack shares, which, I appreciate. By the end of this episode, I'm not sure he was telling the truth. That it's genuinely interesting. Like, I do think that is, it's not Penny's boat, but it might be Jack's. But whether or not he's good, like, I genuinely am not sure. Because, like, he says, don't worry, we're coming to you or we'll be with you soon. And that feels a little ominous, but it's not like he was saying, oh, we're going to get you. Like, maybe he does genuinely, because, like, he did say they had a boat. He just said, oh, it's taking on water, and, we're in a crisis situation. Oh, there's a thing about, like, oh, the bilge pump is working, which is a miracle. This is a bad situation. I mean, I don't know that we got enough details about how bad or why bad the situation was to say for sure that it's impossible for them to have fixed it and then been able to go that, like, for all we know, they're going there to like try to offer some kind of help. Like, we were told, they don't have that much fresh water, but, okay. I mean, that doesn't mean, yeah. But yeah, also appreciated the detail about so after because we saw him catch and kill um, a rather than catch and release, which is really more like that's a good way to describe how Jan Sixers have been treated. And some of them just keep getting themselves arrested again. It's almost like it might have made sense to check their record before you just blanket pardon them. I don't know. And the yeah, he bashed in the brains of this eel right there on deck. And then later we see him, I want to say it's called swabbing the deck, which, yeah, like, if you kill a living thing on a flat surface, Good idea to clean it afterwards. Found that out the hard way. That's a joke. And because I never really learned my lesson. No, I'm kidding. And yeah, the like frankly, I know sometimes I can come off a little intense in some of these videos. Like if you saw me in person, I can be so ridiculously calm. You look, you'll see, and you'll say, he wouldn't harm a fly. And I guess that does bring us to the, let's see, there's at least one more thing I wanted to say about. Yeah, I appreciate the detail that, so as soon as we see that Strand is not at the controls, we do, of course, wonder, is that automatically a bad thing? But we spend just enough time to see, oh, no, yeah, there's a autopilot running, and yeah, boat like that, some of those do in real life, so that's not at all unbelievable. And yeah, at one point, I think, was it maybe when was it when Nick went to talk to Strand, maybe, and he says, one of them says ahoy, which I guess means they maybe think they're the first person to use a telephone machine. And yeah, they talk about, well, I thought we had that conversation back in the cell. Nothing has changed. This is still just, yeah. And I guess that does bring us to the, yeah, it was also really compelling when they're examining the boat, and we see that's a lot of bullet holes. So they were making sure that there was no one, no human being left living on there. We did see a couple of walkers, swimmers now, I guess. And yeah, also the bit with the, listen, there's not many rules on this boat. Rule number 1, this is my boat. Rule number 2, you do not radio on my boat. Wait. And yeah, that is, I am not 100% certain that I feel like he's the kind who does not give many warnings. And I mean, if he, that's the thing, like so far no one slept. And I like the again, I want to say her name is Madison, saying, you can go to sleep, we're not going to throw you overboard. I don't think that's far off from what he was worried about, and that is the thing. Like, if people start going to sleep, if Strand hasn't, and he decides this person has compromised or is not contributing, are we confident that he is not gonna like throw someone overboard? And then, the next, as soon as people start waking up, just be like, oh, I've been asleep too. I didn't hear or see anything. Because that's another thing about being out on the open sea like that, it's not going to take more than, I mean, yeah, minutes, I guess. I hypothetically, maybe they can try to swim for a little bit, but they're not going to be able to catch up to the boat. So yeah, that is, it's a very compelling situation that feels distinct from anything on the main show and in the first season, at least so far. So yeah, nicely done on that. And I guess that, yeah, so also they, yeah, good job on the dinner. The fact that we can't really hear anything, it just kind of feel it's vibes, we're not meant to really think too much about what they're saying. It's just like, yeah, it's a kind of pleasant, it's a break from the rest of it, that's for just a tiny little bit there, it feels normal, And then splash, and it's like, Oh shit. Because he did look a little melancholy, you know? And turns out he just wanted to go swimming and didn't feel like telling anyone. That's a little, yeah. And that, of course, leads to the swimmers. Yeah. And right, I also want to talk about, yeah, the grieving also felt very well handled to me. Grief is one of those things, like, we talk too little about it because it's difficult. We're all going to have to do it at some point in our lives. I appreciate not everyone will lose a person they love, but then maybe there's a pet or, but yeah, this thing of, like, for a while he just stares at it and then, he goes fishing and very beautiful eulogy by Travis. And then, Chris just sends the body off into the water, which I appreciate. That was what they were going to do, but he's, that's the thing. Like, some people grieve. Everybody grieves different. Don't ever let no motherfucker ever tell you that you are grieving the wrong way. Like, if you're engaging in behavior that's destructive towards yourself or others, you may need help, but, everybody grieves in their own way. And this does look like one that is not the healthiest. And yeah, he gets so angry he punches Travis in the face, and afterwards we can actually see it drew a little bit of blood from, I want to say, the little lip it was. And yeah, like, their relationship is worse now than it has ever been, for understandable reasons, but that definitely does make us worry. It is, like a lot of great zombie media, it's kind of a powder keg. These are people who, yeah, like right now it's going okay, but um, there's a lot of strong personalities on not an awful lot of space, and one person saying it's his way or the water way, and drowning, water, a way to go. And I think that does bring us to the, yeah, and the thing about, like, well, boat's coming here. Do you think those are the ones who did that to the other boat? You want to stay and ask them? And suddenly it is not, oh, the boat that's coming there, that might be the one that destroyed the other boat. No, suddenly it's the boat that did that is coming here. Which, yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, at this point, even if there are friendlies on the other boat, even if they're in charge, even if everyone on that boat is friendly, this is going to be very, very tense. And the thing is, what if they had no idea about the other boat? They just saw a plume of smoke, and maybe they thought, oh, that's probably walkers. If they pass the other boat, see a bunch of bullet holes, maybe they're going to think the crew of the Abigail are the, like, let's see, what's the right term? Catfishers?